14,700 people were already dead. The plague was still moving. It had begun after the rebellion of Korah, a man who decided that Moses had taken too much authority for himself, that the whole congregation was holy, that the priesthood should belong to everyone. God had swallowed the rebels into the earth. Their followers had been consumed by fire, and then the remaining people, the ones who had watched all of this, began to murmur. They blamed Moses, and the text says the plague began. Not metaphorically, not as a figure of speech, a real plague, moving through a real camp, killing real people. Moses turns to his brother, Numbers 16, verse 46. Take a censer and put fire in it from the altar, and lay incense on it, and carry it quickly to the congregation, and make atonement for them, for wrath has gone out from the Lord. The plague has begun. Aaron does not ask questions. He does not pause to pray. He does not raise his hands to heaven. He picks up the bronze censer. He takes fire from the altar. He puts the incense on it. He runs toward the plague, not away, toward it. He runs into the middle of the dying and the dead, and he stands there, burning, between them. The text says something that I have never been able to read without stopping. He stood between the dead and the living. Vaya amod, bein hametim uvein hachayim. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague stopped. Not slowed, stopped. 14,700 dead. And then nothing, because a man ran into a plague with a censer of burning incense and stood in the middle of it. No prayer recorded, no spoken word of any kind, just smoke. That is in the Bible. Numbers 16, verses 46 to 50. And almost no one has ever heard this story. I want to tell you what I think happened in that camp, because the instinctive modern reading of this passage is supernatural intervention, miraculous, inexplicable, the kind of thing that requires faith to accept and skepticism to dismiss. But I want to offer you another reading, not instead of that one, alongside it. Incense in Solomon's world was not decorative. It was not the pleasant background smell of a temple, the way some churches today fill the air with fragrance to create atmosphere. It was a technology, a material substance with understood properties and a specific operating formula. And Aaron knew that formula. He was a priest. He had been trained. He knew exactly what the Ketoret, the sacred temple incense, was made of and why it worked. This was not improvisation. This was a man doing what he had been trained to do in a crisis. He took the tool he had, and he ran toward the problem. Let me show you what that tool actually was. Exodus 30, verse 34. God gives Moses the exact formula, not an approximation, not a general instruction to use pleasant-smelling things. A precise recipe, 4 ingredients in equal parts, stacte, nataf in Hebrew. A resinous teardrop that flows naturally from a plant without cutting. The kind of substance that seeps out on its own. Onika shachalith. The opinion of the ancient scholars is that this was the ground casing of a specific sea creature from the Red Sea. Something from the boundary between water and land. Galbanum, chelbena. And here is where the passage becomes strange. Galbanum does not smell good. I want to be precise about this because the texts are precise about it. On its own, galbanum has a sharp, green, resinous smell, with what scholars of ancient aromatics describe as an earthy, bitter undertone. It is not pleasant. It is not what you would choose for a sacred offering. And the Talmud, in Tractate Keritot, page 6, side A, makes a ruling about it that stopped me when I first read it. If galbanum is left out of the incense formula, the incense is invalid, not inferior, not slightly less effective, invalid. A disqualified offering, unacceptable before God. The foul-smelling ingredient is not optional. The foul-smelling ingredient is required. And then the Talmud explains why. The rabbinic interpretation of the chelbena ruling is this: a prayer community that excludes sinners is not acceptable before God. The foul element, the one that does not smell holy, the one that on its own would not be welcome at the altar, must be included, or the whole offering fails. Without the broken element, the blend is incomplete. Without the outcasts, the prayer lacks its essential ingredient. I want you to stay with that for a moment. Because this is not a warm sentiment. This is not a feel-good theological point about inclusion. This is a technical ruling about a formula. The incense, the specific physical substance that could stop a plague, requires the broken element. Without it, it does not work. Whoever is broken in your household, whoever is struggling, failing, not living up to what they could be, whoever smells metaphorically of the difficult things, their brokenness belongs in the offering, not after they have cleaned up, not once they have sorted themselves out. Now, as part of what makes the whole thing holy, the fourth ingredient, pure frankincense, levana zaka. This one you know, the scent you associate with churches, with Christmas, with the Magi. And it is worth pausing on that last connection, because it is not the one most people make. The Magi brought frankincense to the infant in Bethlehem. The standard interpretation is that they brought it as a gift of worship, a royal offering for a king, the way a visiting dignitary brings something precious. But the Magi were not visiting dignitaries. They were men trained in the use of sacred materials. They knew what frankincense was. They knew what it was for. They brought it because they recognized in the child before them someone who would need it, someone who would one day stand between the dead and the living. They brought temple incense to a child they knew would need to use it. That is not the reading you find in Sunday school, but it is the reading the texts support. Now let me bring in Solomon himself, because Solomon is not a peripheral figure in this story. He is the one who built the institution that made all of this possible. 1 Kings chapter 9 verse 25. Solomon burned incense 3 times a year on the altar he built. 3 times. The 3 major festivals, Passover, Shavuot, Sukkot, every pilgrimage feast, every moment when the whole nation gathered. Solomon understood that the gathering of people at sacred time required the burning of the sacred formula, not as ceremony, as maintenance, as calibration, as what you do to keep a space aligned with what it is supposed to be. But Song of Solomon chapter 3 verse 6 carries this further than any other text. The text asks, "Who is this coming up from the wilderness like columns of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, made from all the spices of the merchant?" The question is about the beloved, and Solomon describes her arrival in the exact same language used for the sacred incense procession. Columns of smoke, myrrh and frankincense, all the spices. In Solomon's poetry, love and divine protection wear the same fragrance. The scent of prayer and the scent of desire are identical. The woman he loves arrives smelling like the temple, or the temple is prepared with the same care as one prepares for the person one loves. I am still not sure which way the metaphor runs, perhaps both. Now I want to tell you about the Testament of Solomon. This is a text written between the 1st and 3rd centuries of the Common Era, attributed to Solomon himself as a kind of manual for what he learned during the construction of the temple. Modern scholars date its composition to late antiquity, though the traditions it contains are older. In the Conybeare edition, the text describes what it calls a home-fixing ritual. The exact words are these: "If thou burn gum and incense and bulb of the sea with nard and saffron, and light 7 lamps in an earthquake, thou wilt firmly fix thy house." Firmly fix thy house. In the original Greek, the word is sfingo, to bind, to seal, to fasten, not decorate, not bless in a general sense. Fix, as you fix a joint that has become loose. The incense ritual in Solomon's tradition was not performed to create a pleasant spiritual atmosphere. It was a sealing operation. The smoke did something to the structure of a space. It fastened it. And the text specifies the structure. 7 lamps over 7 days. 7, not 6, not 8. 7. 7 is not an arbitrary number in the tradition of Solomon. 1 Kings chapter 8, verses 65 and 66. The dedication of Solomon's temple took 7 days. Leviticus chapter 8, verses 33 to 35. The ordination of the priesthood took 7 days. Numbers chapter 19. The purification ritual using the red heifer, the most complex purification ceremony in the entire Torah, ran on a 7-day cycle. The Hebrew word for 7, sheva, shares its root with the word shalom, wholeness, completeness, and shalom shares its root with shalom, peace. not the absence of conflict, the condition of being whole, aligned in the state in which something is meant to be. And Shalem, listen to this carefully, Shalem is also the root of Solomon's own name, Shlomo. The name of the wisest king means the one who belongs to wholeness, the one who is of peace. A cycle of 7 does not simply count days, it completes a restoration. It returns something to the state it is meant to be. Let me now bring in the Zohar, the central text of Kabbalistic tradition, the mystical commentary on the Torah that was compiled in 13th century Spain, but draws on traditions vastly older. In the section on Parashat Vayakhel, the portion describing the construction of the tabernacle, the Zohar teaches something that I think is one of the most practical pieces of spiritual technology in the entire tradition. It teaches that the one who recites the Ketoret passage daily, the passage describing the formula, Exodus 30 verses 34 to 38, receives the same protection as burning it. The words carry the force of the actual burning. The smoke rises even without fire. The temple is gone, the altar no longer stands, but the Ketoret became portable. Wherever you are, the formula exists in language. Say the words, the Zohar teaches, and what happened in the temple is happening in the room where you are. The protection extends to the space around the person who speaks the words. This matters enormously for what I'm about to tell you, because it means that the 7-day protocol I'm going to describe tonight does not require rare ingredients or priestly lineage or access to a temple. It requires what you already have, your voice, your intention, a few common materials, and 7 mornings. Before I give you the protocol, I want to tell you about my mother, Nsuka. I was 7 years old. I woke before dawn one morning. Something had pulled me out of sleep. Not a sound, not a dream, just the particular quality of early morning light in my room in southeastern Nigeria. I came downstairs. My mother was already awake. She was moving through the house slowly, carrying something, not a candle, something burning in a small clay vessel. The smoke moved in front of her as she walked. The smell reached me before she did. Sweet, resinous, slightly bitter underneath. Not cooking smoke. I knew cooking smoke. This was something else. She moved through the rooms without hurrying. She did not look at me when I appeared in the doorway. She was doing what she was doing, and I understood in the way that 7-year-olds understand things, not in words but in the body, that I was not meant to interrupt. I watched her from the doorway until she finished. She came back to the kitchen. She set down the vessel. She looked at me then. She said, "No, Nulo." It is Igbo. It translates roughly as welcome to the house, or more precisely, greet the house, acknowledge it. Say to the space that you see it and it sees you. I did not ask what she had burned. I was 7. You do not ask about things that feel too sacred to ask about. Years passed. I was 32. I was at SOAS working through the Ketoret passages for a seminar on Second Temple liturgical practice. I was reading the 11 ingredient list. The rabbis of the Talmud expanded the original 4 to 11 for the temple period. In Keritot, the full list is given. 11 materials, in specific proportions, some rare and some common. I got to Chelbana. I read the description of its smell. Sharp, green, resinous, slightly herbaceous, with an earthy, bitter undertone. I stopped. I was not in Nsuka. I was in a library in London, but I was in my mother's kitchen. The slightly bitter underneath. She had never read Exodus 30. She had no access to tractate Keritot. She had no text. She had the practice, passed from her mother and her mother's mother, and back through the generations of Igbo women in southeastern Nigeria who burned things at dawn and moved through their houses slowly and said welcome to the space. I wrote 2 words in my notebook. She knew. I did not sleep particularly well that night, not because of distress, because of what knowing something from the inside feels like when the outside finally confirms it. Here is what I want you to understand about the distribution of this practice across the world. The bukhoor tradition of the Arabian Peninsula, the burning of blended incense resins, typically containing agar wood and sandalwood, before prayer and before important occasions, is documented in Hadith traditions. The Prophet Muhammad received and recommended fragrant materials. In the collection of Al-Bukhari, Hadith 5929, do not reject a gift of fragrance. Islamic ruqya, spiritual healing, incorporates incense alongside Quranic recitation. The burning of oud, which is agar wood, the most expensive resin in the world, is specifically associated in the Islamic tradition with creating a space inhospitable to malicious jinn. The Quran itself, in Surah An-Naml, chapter 27, the chapter that describes Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, places Sulaiman in a palace with specific aromatic properties, commanding jinn, overseeing a space that had been deliberately prepared. The Islamic tradition of bukhoor before prayer is not an innovation. It is a continuation of the same Solomonic logic. Before you enter sacred engagement, you alter the atmosphere of the space. You prepare it. You make it what it needs to be. Move further south. Yoruba Egungun ceremonies in southwestern Nigeria use idan, sacred herb smoke, to open communication with ancestors and close a space against malicious forces. The idan ceremony is performed by trained priests. The smoke moves in specific patterns. The prayers are spoken into the smoke. Igbo ritual burning, specifically before major household transitions, before the beginning of a new season, before a birth or a death, uses specific wood and specific resins. The critical distinction, which I find endlessly significant. Practitioners distinguish between what you burn, which materials, and in what combination. When you burn, at which hour and at which point in a cycle, and what you say, which declaration or prayer is spoken while the smoke rises. 3 elements. Specific formula, specific timing, spoken intention. Those 3 elements are identical to the biblical Ketoret protocol. Specific formula, the 11 ingredients in proportion. Specific timing, the morning temple service, the Tamid Shel Shachar at dawn. Spoken intention, the priestly declaration before the high priest entered the Holy of Holies. 3 traditions, 3 continents, independent development across millennia, all arriving at the same 3 elements. I'm not asking you to treat this as proof of anything supernatural. I'm asking you to recognize that when independent traditions across human civilization converge on the same technology, something is being described about reality. Something consistent enough to have been discovered separately, many times in many places. That is not superstition. That is a pattern. And Solomon was the one who gave it its most precise formulation. I want to give you the 7-day protocol now. This is drawn directly from the sources I have described to you. The Testament of Solomon's home sealing framework, the Ketoret principles from Exodus 30 and Tractate Keritot, the timing from Song of Solomon chapter 3 and the temple morning service, the declaration principle from Leviticus 16, what to burn, frankincense resin. This is the non-negotiable base. Every tradition that converges on this practice uses it. It is available in African markets, Middle Eastern grocery stores, and widely online. You want the raw resin, small amber or pale yellow lumps, not the processed powder. Mere resin, the second constant. Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 13, chapter 4, verse 14. Myrrh and frankincense together are the Solomonic signature. They appear together in the temple, in the song, in the Magi's offering. Combined, they form the foundation. One element of bitterness, this is the chelbana principle, the foul ingredient that makes the offering complete. You can use dried hyssop, the plant referenced in Psalm 51 verse 7, the great psalm of purification, where David asks to be purged with hyssop. Hyssop is available in most herb shops. Or you can use a pinch of coarse salt, not symbolic, not ceremonial, just salt, the mineral that every tradition associates with preservation and purification. The bitter element is not optional. The Talmud is explicit. Without it, the offering is incomplete. Include what is broken in your household in this offering, not symbolically, literally. Burn something that represents the difficult thing, the relationship that is strained, the health that is uncertain, the grief that has not resolved. Put a small amount of coarse salt in the mix. Hold the intention of what is broken in your house and let it burn. The broken element belongs in the smoke. When to burn? Before dawn or at first light. Song of Solomon, chapter 3, verse 6. describes the beloved rising like columns of smoke at dawn. The temple morning service, the Tamid Shel Shachar, was performed at first light. The Islamic Fajr prayer, the first prayer of the day, is performed before sunrise. The Igbo and Yoruba burning traditions I described are done before the house fully wakes. Dawn is the threshold hour, the moment between what the night was and what the day will be. The smoke belongs to that threshold. How? 7 days, beginning tonight or beginning tomorrow morning. Day 1, light the incense, let it burn, and declare aloud, not silently, aloud, your intention. Something like this. This is the first day of 7. By the covenant of this smoke, I am sealing this home. Say it simply, do not perform it. You are not speaking for an audience. You are informing the space. The Leviticus 16 principle, the high priest spoke his intention before entering the Holy of Holies, is that the spoken word and the smoke are not separate acts. The breath that carries the words and the smoke that fills the room are the same kind of thing. Both are breath, both are offering. Days 2 through 6, burn each morning at dawn, without spoken declaration, in silence. The silence of those 5 days is itself a form of continued offering. The incense is doing its work. You are present with it. That is all that is required. Day 7. Walk through every room of your house carrying the burning vessel. Every room, not just the main space, the corners, the places that are not visible from the center, the rooms that are used rarely, the spaces under stairs if you have them. The smoke of the 7th day should reach the full perimeter of your home. The testament of Solomon's phrase, "Thou wilt firmly fix thy house," is a spatial instruction. The sealing requires the smoke to know the full extent of what is being sealed. When you have walked through every room and returned to where you began, close the cycle with a completion declaration, something like this. The 7th day is complete. What was opened is now closed. What was loose is now fixed. What was entering is now turned back. Then let the incense burn down on its own. Why 7 days? Because Sheva, 7, shares its root with Shalem. Wholeness, completion, the state of being aligned with what something is meant to be. Because every major sanctification in the biblical record took 7 days. Because Solomon's own name carries this root. A 7-day cycle is not a waiting period. It is the duration of a complete return. Now let me bring you back to Aaron. He is standing in the middle of a camp. 14,700 bodies are around him. More are dying as he stands there. He is standing in the smoke of a burning censer. He did not stop the plague by asking for it to stop. He did not pray for deliverance. He did not raise his hands to heaven and wait. He ran. He picked up the tool he had, and he ran toward the problem, and he stood between the dead and the living with the smoke rising around him, and the plague stopped. I want to ask you a question that I have been sitting with for a long time. What did Aaron understand about smoke that we have forgotten? Not in a mystical sense. In a practical sense, he understood that smoke from the right materials, burned at the right time in the right place, does something to the condition of a space. It changes something. Not as metaphor, as mechanism. The ancient world was not less sophisticated than we are in this regard. It was differently sophisticated. Modern science separates the physical and the spiritual into categories that the ancient world did not recognize. The Ketoret formula, with its specific resins, its specific proportions, its required bitter element, was understood by Aaron and by Solomon and by the high priests of Israel as a physical substance with real effects on a real space. The same understanding is in the bukhoor tradition, in the Yoruba idan ceremony, in my mother's hands, as she walked through our house in Sukkah before the rest of us were awake. She was not performing ceremony for its own sake. She was doing maintenance. She was applying the tools she had been given to the space that her family lived in, to keep it right. There is something else I want to say before I leave you with this, about the Zohar's teaching. The one who recites the Ketoret passage daily receives the same protection as burning it. This is not a consolation prize for people who cannot access incense. This is a claim about the nature of language. The breath that carries words and the smoke that rises from the censer are the same kind of offering. Both are exhalation. Both are the visible externalization of something internal. When you speak a declaration into a space, you are doing what the priest did when he entered the Holy of Holies. You are making your intention audible and therefore real. The words are not decoration for what you are doing. They are part of what you are doing. This is why day 1 and day 7 require spoken words, and the middle 5 are silence. The silence of days 2 through 6 is not absence. It is the smoke doing what smoke does. You began it, you will close it. In the middle, it works. I have been thinking about what it means that this knowledge has been held quietly in so many traditions simultaneously. The priests of Israel, the Sufi teachers who incorporated incense into their practice, the Yoruba specialists in idan ceremonies, the Igbo women who moved through their houses before dawn. None of them were citing each other. None of them needed to. They had each arrived at the same understanding through different paths, and they kept it alive. Through colonial disruption, through religious replacement, through every force that told traditional knowledge it was superstition and primitive and beneath serious consideration. They kept it alive in the hands of ordinary women who burned things before their families woke up, who moved through rooms quietly, who said, "No, Nolo, welcome to the house." My mother did not have a theological education. She had not read Exodus 30. She could not cite the Talmud. But she knew what the text knows. She knew what Aaron knew. She knew that the space you live in requires maintenance, that a home is not just walls and furniture and the people inside. It is a field, and like any field, it can be tended, or left to whatever moves through. She chose to tend it. The plague stopped the moment Aaron stood between the dead and the living. He did not ask for it to stop. He did not negotiate. He did not wait. He burned something, and he stood in it. That is the oldest human understanding of what smoke does. What the incense carries between the human and the divine. What the burning censer means when it is held between two conditions, death and life, profane and sacred, the broken and the whole, and allowed to do what it does. Solomon knew this. He built the entire temple apparatus around it. He burned incense 3 times a year on the altar he built. He wrote about the beloved arriving like columns of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense. He understood that the same fragrance that protects also draws the beloved near, that love and purification wear the same scent. And he left us a formula, precise, documented, still available. Frankincense, myrrh, a bitter element. 7 mornings, 7 days, to firmly fix your house. The ingredients are not rare. You can find frankincense in your city this week. Myrrh is available everywhere frankincense is sold. Dried hyssop is in most herb stores. You do not need a temple. You do not need a priest. You do not need lineage or training or permission. You need 7 mornings and the willingness to do what Aaron did. Not ask, act. Pick up the censer, stand in the smoke, and let it do what it has always done. Sleep well tonight, or don't. But if you wake before dawn tomorrow, if something pulls you out of sleep at first light, consider that this may be the best possible time to begin. Day 1. The first day of 7. By the covenant of this smoke, seal your home. Aaron didn't ask the plague to stop. He burned something. Now so do you.